Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Monday, wrapping up the month of August. Where does the time go? But think about it, football season's here, right? We have college, high school football, NFL is going to start here, I think next week. So more distractions, not to mention the political theater, and now apparently no ceasefire going on in the Middle East. Is it going to get bigger? And oh my gosh, there's just so many different places to go. RFK Jr. Joining forces with Donald Trump. That's the year of chaos. That is the year of chaos. It is making for a lot of strange bedfellows, that is for sure. Of course, Friday, the big news, Jay Powell saying that essentially the central bank is done fighting inflation, and they're worried about the job market. Of course, that dual mandate, remember the Fed has that dual mandate, which is full employment and steady prices, and, well, the full employment part's been pretty good, I guess. The steady prices, not so much, but now, according to Jay Powell, time to shift policy because the job market is a lot scarier than what the numbers may indicate. I guess we'll have to wait and see on exactly how all of that plays out. But, Jason, we've called this the year of chaos. It's lived up to its billing. Gold prices at record highs, stock prices at record highs, right? The bubble getting ready to burst, inverted yield curves, World War III, elections. I mean, there's something for everybody here.
There is a lot going on, for sure. There is a lot going on, and we know, Joe, that economically things have been pushing in a certain direction. It's interesting, Joe, because for the average person who's paying attention to this, maybe the guy that listens to this show regularly but doesn't totally understand it, it's a day-to-day thing, it's a week-to-week thing, it's a year-to-year thing, and it's a decade-to-decade. You know, you look at the whole thing, Joe. You have to look at all of it to try to understand where it's going to head in the near future. And all of those indications, those time frames I mentioned, Joe, show that right now and in the, let's just say, 1 month to 3 year future, it just doesn't look good. I don't see how anything but bad stuff happens. And you have people at these political conventions saying that an emergency is coming. They won't say what it is. It's almost like they've already got whatever this thing is that's going to hit us is already going to happen, so that they can cover up the economic chaos that ensues. I mean, what is it, Warren Buffett? What is he sitting on, $250 million, $1 billion, or whatever it is, cash? He's getting ready to be the street sweeper to clean up the wreckage off the street, right? He's the one that's going to buy the blood off the streets, so to speak, right, Joe? The guy's holding more cash than most people would ever see in their 50 lifetimes.
And again, we've seen Warren Buffett do this before, and always, you know, this is how he's really made his fortune, is capitalizing on the boom and bust cycles. And, you know, obviously he knows more than most, and this is a record stockpile of cash for Warren Buffett. And here's the thing. Here's the funny part. Where does he keep that cash? Think he keeps it in a bank? Oh, no. Warren's not that dumb. Do you think he keeps it in a money market? No, he's not that dumb either, because he knows the rules. He just loads up on short-term treasuries, and then when it comes time for the disaster du jour, whatever it is, he'll be ready to ride in and scoop up things, pennies on the... Listen, I don't... I'm jealous, I guess. I don't hold any ill will for Warren Buffett, but that's how he operates. And again, Could he buy gold? Could he buy silver? Yep. Has he done it in the past? Yes, of course. Tells you not to do it, right? Because he doesn't like it because it doesn't pay interest. But, yeah, I think the rest of the world is thinking, wait a minute, it may not pay interest. But the one thing that you can't do is you cannot create gold out of thin air. You can't do it. They've tried, right? Think about it. Even back in the dark ages, they try to figure out how can we make gold and chemically make. Can't do it. You can't just print it. And the amount of countries, sovereign wealth funds, central banks, diversifying into gold is a warning sign to everybody. They're like everybody else, right? They've seen this. Hey, we've seen this video time after time after time. 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. AllAmericanGold.com, of course, is the website. You got people out there talking about no matter who wins, there's going to be civil unrest in the United States. We have durable goods orders. I don't know if you saw the thing with Boeing. You know, maybe we need to find another company here. You know, they had this the Starliner. It goes up to the space station, and they're supposed to send these people up for 8 days. 8 days is now going to be 8 months. Boeing announced over the weekend it's so unsafe, we're going to try to send it back with nobody in it because we don't think it'll land safely. Kind of like their airplanes lately. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. Quick look here at the markets. The Dow is mixed. The Dow's up 80. The S&P's down 14. The Nasdaq's down 146. The 10-year note, 379, well, I'll call it 338, 379, right in that range. Crude oil up 230 right now, $77 and change as, again, I guess the war drums continue to beat. Gold and silver, pretty quiet right now on the gold and silver front. Gold's flat here, 25.13. Silver's off about 8 cents, $29.70. The dollar having a little bit of strength anyway today after the news about Jay Powell in the rate cuts. Just going to tell you, get more diversified. I don't know when. Right? Is it now? Could be. I don't think so. Is it going to be before the election or after the election? I think that's probably the right question, right? Sometime, if I was to guess, sometime in the next 6 months, I don't know, whatever the event is going to be that triggers it will be here. Be a lot more diversified. Wait till you today. We're going to talk about the U.S. Treasury market, the allegedly safest market in the world. And now all of it, B of A warned last month, hey, we're just one thing away from it not working right. Now they're questioning just how safe that market is. That's something, I've been doing this a long time. That's never been said. But this is where we are at. The use of the Chinese renminbi continues to skyrocket with all of these BRICS nations doing business in the renminbi, buying gold, bringing gold home. These are signs that are telling you better get ready. Check out our friends at YRefi. If you've got $50,000 or more, you get great fixed rates of return up to 10.25%. What does fixed mean? It doesn't change. But what if this and what if that? What if nothing? It doesn't change. You can use it as income. You can compound it. You can do whatever you want with it. They don't attack principle. They don't play games. And it's actually something where it's really all about the greater good. But check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them at 888-YREFI24. But Jason, an article over the weekend after Jackson Hole, Reuters was talking about the world safe haven securities. Now, I want to remind people that for whatever reason, they didn't want gold to be one of these assets. Matter of fact, for ever since they went off the gold standard, they said that the gold, it's an asset, but it's not a tier one. Why do they have it? Well, there was problems. They knew the Treasury market wasn't operating properly. And they called it a lack of liquidity. And it's interesting that they said, well, we just got to step in here for a little while. But when you really look at it, when you start looking at the amount of debt the United States creates versus dollar usage, the dollar was at 72% like 20 years ago. That was how much the world. Think about it, that's a lot. 72% of all of the excess, balance sheets on the central banks and these countries' wealth funds was dollars. It's now 58% and dropping. And now they're saying that there's uncertainty in the Treasury market about exactly what is going to happen in certain episodes. And they're saying that the Treasury market itself, the Treasury Secretary herself, is saying that, hey, there are some episodes where we are uncertain. What does that mean, uncertain? Well, they don't know if there will be buyers in the Treasury market. And at what point, do you have a central bank? Like I said, are we going to see the central bank in the next 6 months stop quantitative tightening altogether? I believe we are. I believe that's going to stop. I think the bigger question is quantitative easing going to come back. And it's something where the Fed, in theory, isn't even supposed to do quantitative easing until the rates are at zero. But it doesn't appear that ability is still here anymore. Yes, they said they were going to stop fighting inflation and cut rates. And yes, they set it up to where it will be multitude amounts of rate cuts coming. All of that is true. But the thought that rates could go to zero, nobody that I've seen thinks that's even possible. Already the worry is that the Fed gave up on inflation, and now inflation's going to come back because of the lower rates. And the fact of the matter is our own undersecretary, listen, Janet Yellen won't say it, but her little underlings will say it. But they'll say it very quietly and hope that nobody hears it, because when you turn on the idiot box on CNBC or Fox in the morning, they're not going to tell you. But that's why you listen here. They're saying hey, there are certain scenarios where, right? Whoops. This is no longer a safe place to be. Now, will the Fed ride to the rescue? Jason, I guarantee they will. But again, what happens when their balance sheet, it's 10 trillion, 15 trillion, right? The rest of the world, this running away from fiat money, it's everywhere. And listen, it's not just us. We know that. I mean, Japan is worse. Europe's no better. Well, actually, Europe is better. They have these rules in place that limit the amount of debt. Now, some of these countries break them. But the United States, I mean, we are debt addicts. I mean, this is something where I liken it to if any of you have had a family member that's been addicted to drugs. Right? And I'm not talking about the family. Listen, we used to be a country that maybe the U.S. government smoked weed in the basement. The Treasury Undersecretary for Domestic Finance, her name is Nellie Lang, made some interesting comments about the safety of the Treasury markets and really bond markets in general. And I was talking about how gold has gone from, hey, you're not even a Tier 1 asset. By the way, treasuries are considered a Tier 1 asset, and they're considered a high liquidity Tier 1 asset, which now all of a sudden gold's a Tier 1 asset. All of a sudden now gold's going to be a high liquidity Tier 1 asset. At whose expense? And the answer is very simple. At the expense of the world's bond markets. Because as they see what's happening, and we see all of these countries deciding, hey, you know what? We don't want to buy treasuries like we used to. We want to hold other things. Gold is now the second largest holdings in the world. It passed the euro, I want to say a week and a half ago, as the second largest holdings in the world. Just another indication of what the rest of the world thinks about holding significant amounts of treasuries. And like I said, Janet Yellen won't admit it. Fox won't tell you this. CNBC won't tell you this. But they're like, hey, there's scenarios. They're running these scenarios all the time. There's scenarios, Jason, we're like, yeah, we don't... when they say we don't know what's going to happen, I know what's going to happen. That means the bond market's not going to work. And here comes the Fed to buy hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars to try to keep the system going. And this is the biggest, I think the biggest fear in all of this is the house of cards. We talk about the house of cards. We talk about boom and bust. That's what they do. This is how all fiat currencies die. You print too much of it, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, wait a minute. You know what? That math doesn't look so good, right? That math doesn't look so good. Maybe I want to buy something else. And we've been saying this for a while, kind of one of our new things. If you don't hold it, you don't own it, right? Right? I mean, you've heard us say that over and over and over and over. You don't hold that money in your bank account. You don't own it. You don't. You don't own the money in your money market. You don't own the money in your stock accounts. You don't. Sorry. That's the truth. Now, there's a contract There's a contract, but as we all know about contracts can be broken, right? Contracts can be broken. Contracts, apparently, when it comes to the debt markets, they can change at any moment, and guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. Matter of fact, most people don't even know the rules have changed because they think they're supposed to get some alert. I don't know, a phone call, right? Or someone's urgent email. No. Nope. We put it on the fine print of an electronic statement that you don't even open. That's your notification. But I got a financial planner. Yeah, no, they don't know either. It's better that they don't know because otherwise, that's a hard conversation. But again, I think what they're doing here, Jason, is just setting us up. Get ready for quantitative easing to come back, and this time without rates at zero, which I don't even know how that dog hunts. That's horrible. You think about the losses. Listen, the Federal Reserve, they're like $150 billion in debt, but apparently it doesn't count because that's just a little banking adjustment. Well, we'll pay it back later at some point when things get better. I don't know, Jason. I think this is a tough period for a lot of fiat money because this is how it dies. When everybody is like, you know what, I rather have things that I hold. Why do you think all of these countries, they've had gold in New York and in London. Some of them have had it there for over 100 years.
Well,
right? They want it all back now.
You say, how does it look? Higher rates and borrowing money? Yeah, we didn't have quantitative easing. We didn't have that sort of borrowing in the 70s. However, we had higher rates, right, Joe? The national debt, I just looked up as just a generic year, 1972. That's when we started heading into that inflationary cycle through that decade, right, into the early 80s where Reagan was elected, and then we had a $1 trillion. We hit that $1 trillion early in his first term. Well, we had $426 billion in debt in 1972 before all this economic chaos unraveled, right? One decade, you more than doubled the debt. So let's go back a couple of years when we started having this inflation, Joe, where let's just say 32 trillion. Okay, so we're going to have higher rates, we're going to have inflation, and that 32 will turn into 62 in less than a decade. How does that sound? That's what I think happens, Joe. I don't know how sustainable it is, but it's just smoke and mirrors, right? It's just numbers on a keyboard. So yeah, do we have 62 trillion going into 2030? I don't know, Joe. That's what I think. That's inflating your way out of the mess. I think that's where we're headed, Joe, and it's going to be destructive to the middle class. There's not going to be much middle class left at the end of that.
Well, already look at where we're at. Price of a home. It's like almost, 10 times, right? 10 times what it used to be. Right? Maybe your salary went up, but it only went up 3 times if you're lucky, maybe 4 times if you're really lucky, right? Actually, owning a house got farther away, not closer away, right? Look at cars and everything else. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Monday as we're watching, gold flirting again with all-time record highs. The fact that the world has decided to reclassify gold, not just once, but multiple times, especially over the last 15 years, to where it is now being recognized as the safest of the safe of all Tier 1 assets. And now even our own Undersecretary of the Treasury has admitted, hey, we've got scenarios here where the Treasury market's not going to work. Now, what does that mean? Well, obviously, we're going to have a big crash. The Fed will step in, jack up the balance sheet, right, to try to tell you it's just a liquidity problem. But here's the thing. The liquidity keeps getting worse. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Today's special, $10 Liberties, $13.75. You got to save $20 a throw on $10 Liberties. Tell you what, you buy 20 or more, $13.65 at 800-951-0592. Right now, gold's up a couple of bucks here, 25.15. Silver is flat right now. The Dow trying to hold on to gains, up 27. The Nasdaq's down 19. I'm sorry, the S&P's down 19. The Nasdaq is down 155 points right now. Crude oil rallying. And then, Jason, we look at the other big metal that we sell on the silver side. The amount of silver being gobbled up here. Now, article breaks this weekend. India is setting to double the amount of silver imports due to solar and military demand. So, Jason, this is another thing we haven't really, we talk about a lot of the green energy stuff when it comes with silver. But with all the wars breaking around, right? World War II, World War III, World War 67, I don't know. Oh, Jason lost us on you. We're having a tough day today. India now saying that they need to double the amount of silver they're importing, not only for solar and green energy, not only for household demand, but also for military purposes. You think about all these bombs that are being shot around, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's in the Middle East. People don't realize how much silver really is in it. And now India is saying they expect silver prices to double because they say demand is simply going to double. And this is one of these things where I think for all of us here, think about gold demand, records, silver demand, records. It's not as easy as, well, just go get more. Most of the mines that are existing, the best thing we can hope for is, hey, can you increase production? Right? Can you add another shift? Because how do you increase production? It's not like, well, hey, let's just throw some more equipment at it. I mean, you got to have mineable land running 8, 10, 12 hours a day, but they're running at max. Hey, we can't put any more equipment because guess what? The road is full, right? The pit, we can't add another backhoe because guess what? There's not enough room in these pits to do it. So usually to increase production, well, gosh, can you run a night shift? Some of these, and a lot, especially now, gold at $2,500, they're running at max capacity. And this is kind of what India is saying as to what is happening. And again, we talk about China's ascension. India's, right? They're the next China, right? They've got a huge population base. China's got the second largest economy in the world. I mean, India's still only fifth. And when you look at the next 20 to 30 years, they're probably going to be first and second. I mean, that's just probably what it's going to be. How do you think that's really going to work? We're still going to have, don't get me wrong, we'll still have a spot at the table. But China wants theirs. India wants theirs. And even though, let's face it, I wouldn't even call China and India friends. But guess what? They joined BRICS together, didn't they? Right? They started BRICS together, didn't they? Why? Right? Why? Why would they do that? Well, because, hey, you guys decided on this super debt cycle, we got to protect our best interest, right? India, not only did they bring all their gold home, they keep buying it. Patriot Radio News Hour. I know, it's tough to hear, but it's the truth. 800-951-0592. 800-951-0592. $10 liberties, 1 through 19, $13.75. 20 or more at $13.65 at 800-951-0592. The big takeaway from Jackson Hole, if you watch the media, right, it's going to be Jay Powell said it's time to change course on policy and it's time to cut rates. Interestingly, comments from the Undersecretary of the Treasury, which nobody probably but us will talk about, noted that there are multiple scenarios where the Treasury does not believe the markets will act in a manner that would be considered, I guess, normal, whatever you want to, however wording you want to use. The U.S. Treasury market will not function properly. This is something, remember, Bank of America warned about this a month ago. Right? Now we got confirmation, not from the big cheese. We didn't get it from Jay Powell. We didn't get it from Janet Yellen. The undersecretary kind of mentioned it, hoping that nobody would pick up on it. And you start putting the pieces of the Treasury market together. And what are we seeing? Really, since the financial crisis. I mean, think about it. Gosh, the financial crisis coming up on 20 years here. Coming up on 20 years. Ever since then, countries started buying gold. Do you know that countries stopped buying gold after Nixon closed the gold window? They just stopped, right? Well, it made sense because they couldn't. And then Alan Greenspan, Reaganomics, where they had the Social Security trust fund surpluses and blah, 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 blah. Countries sold gold. Really, and sold gold all the way up to about 2004. And then it stopped. And then, of course, came the financial crisis. Then all of a sudden, countries started buying gold. The last 3 years, all-time record high amounts of gold. Every month, another country says, hey, we're going to buy. We're buying. Remember, the IMF and the Bank of International Settlements, they did a survey of central banks. 75% of them said we're going to be buying gold in the next 5 years. That's just what they said. Be your own central bank. because they know what's coming. I think you guys know what's coming, too. We just don't know when. 800-951-0592.